The dining room at my parents' house in Westchester was decorated exactly how Mom liked it for Thanksgiving. Autumn colors everywhere, a centerpiece of gourds and fall flowers that probably cost $200, the good china that only came out for major holidays. 16 people crowded around the extended table, passing dishes of turkey and stuffing and sweet potato casserole while making the kind of polite conversation that families specialize in when they gather once or twice a year. I sat between my cousin Angela and my Aunt Ruth, wearing a dress I'd designed myself. A simple A-line in deep burgundy with three-quarter sleeves and a subtle drape at the neckline. The fabric was a silk wool blend I'd sourced from a supplier in Milan. The construction was impeccable, every seam perfectly finished, the hem hand-stitched with invisible precision. To my family it looked like something I'd picked up at Macy's. "That's a lovely dress, Claire," Aunt Ruth said, helping herself to more mashed potatoes. "Where did you get it?" "I made it," I said, cutting into my turkey. "Oh, that's right," she said, her tone becoming slightly patronizing. "You do that sewing thing. How nice to have a creative outlet." "It is nice," I agreed, not bothering to correct the characterization. My older sister Diane sat across from me with her husband Kevin, both of them dressed in expensive designer labels that they'd purchased at full retail and mentioned at every opportunity. Diane worked in pharmaceutical sales and made what she considered excellent money, around $140,000 a year plus bonuses. Kevin was an investment banker pulling in about $250,000. Together they represented everything my parents valued: corporate success, visible wealth, conventional achievement. "Claire's still doing her little sewing projects," Diane said to Kevin, loud enough for several people to hear. "Making dresses in her apartment. It's very arts and crafts." "Arts and crafts," I repeated mildly. "Well, you know what I mean," she said. "It's not like you're a real fashion designer with a label or anything. You just make things for yourself and maybe a few friends. It's a hobby." "It keeps me busy," I said neutrally. Mom emerged from the kitchen carrying another dish, her famous green bean casserole that she'd been making the same way for 30 years. "Claire, honey, speaking of your sewing, have you given any more thought to what we discussed? About maybe getting a more stable job?" "We've talked about this, Mom," I said. I know, but you're 35 years old," she said, setting down the casserole. "You can't live off of sewing forever. Diane makes 6 figures. Your cousin Matthew just got promoted to senior analyst. Even Angela is looking at management positions at her company. Everyone's building real careers." "My career is real," I said quietly. "Making dresses in your apartment isn't a career, sweetheart," Dad said from the head of the table. "It's a nice creative outlet, but it's not sustainable." "What about benefits? Retirement? Health insurance?" "I have health insurance," I said. "And I'm saving for retirement." "Through what employer?" he asked. "You're self-employed doing freelance sewing. That's not the same as having an actual job with an actual company." I took a sip of wine and said nothing. Let them talk. They'd been having this conversation with me for 7 years, ever since I'd left my marketing job at a tech company to pursue fashion design full-time. They'd never believed it would work, never taken it seriously, never asked about the actual business beyond their surface-level assumptions. "I worry about you," Mom continued, sitting back down. "Living in that tiny apartment in Brooklyn, spending all your time sewing instead of building a real future. What happens when you're 50 and still making dresses by hand? You'll have no career progression, no financial security, nothing to show for all these years." "Mom," I started. "Stop calling it a business," she interrupted, her voice taking on that edge of frustration she got when she thought I was being deliberately obtuse. "It's a hobby. You make dresses in your apartment. That's fine for now, but at some point you need to face reality and get a proper job." Diane laughed. A sharp, dismissive sound. "Real fashion designers have actual stores. They have boutiques, distribution deals, their clothes in department stores. They're not sewing things by hand in a studio apartment." "I don't have a studio apartment," I said. "I have a 1-bedroom in Williamsburg with a dedicated workspace." "Same difference," she said with a wave of her hand. "The point is you're not a real designer. You're someone with a sewing machine and some fabric. There's a difference." My younger brother Nathan, who'd been quiet up until now, spoke up. "I think what Claire does is cool. I mean, she's following her passion. That takes guts." "Following your passion doesn't pay the bills," Dad said. Claire's 35 with no retirement savings, no career advancement, no prospects for growth. That's not guts. That's irresponsibility disguised as artistic pursuit. I have retirement savings, I said. How much could you possibly have saved from selling a few dresses to friends? Diane asked. Be realistic, Claire. You're not making real money doing this. I was about to respond when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw the name. Margaret Chin, VP of Women's Fashion, Bloomingdale's Corporate. I need to take this, I said, standing from the table. During Thanksgiving dinner? Mom said. Claire, we're in the middle of a family meal. It's important, I said. It'll just take a minute. What could possibly be so important that it can't wait until after dinner? Dad asked, annoyed. Are you selling a dress to someone? Can't that transaction wait an hour? I looked at my phone, then at my family sitting around the table, at their faces full of pity and dismissal and the absolute certainty that they knew what my life was. I made a decision. Actually, I said, I'm going to put this on speaker so everyone can hear. I answered the call and set my phone on the table, the speaker volume turned up. This is Claire. Ms. Laurent, came Margaret Chen's polished, professional voice filling the dining room. I hope I'm not interrupting your holiday. I wanted to personally confirm that Bloomingdale's Corporate has finalized the purchase order for your spring collection. We're confirming a $12 million order across 127 stores nationwide. The room went absolutely silent. Every conversation died. Every fork stopped moving. $12 million, I repeated, keeping my voice calm and professional. For the spring collection. That's confirmed. Confirmed and processing through our systems now, Margaret said. The buy includes your full ready-to-wear line. The silk day dresses, the evening wear collection, the separates, and the accessories. We're particularly excited about the sustainable luxury pieces. Our buyers believe they'll perform exceptionally well with our customer base. I'm pleased to hear that, I said. When do you need the delivery schedule? We'd like to discuss logistics next week, Margaret continued. But that's not the only reason I'm calling. Neiman Marcus reached out to our team asking about your fall collection. Apparently, they saw the pieces from your last show and want to schedule a meeting about carrying your line. I told them I'd pass along the message. Neiman Marcus, I said. That's exciting. It's well-deserved, Margaret said warmly. Your work is exceptional, Claire. The construction quality, the innovative design, the sustainable sourcing. You're exactly what luxury retail needs right now. We're thrilled to be partnering with you. I appreciate that, Margaret, I said. Thank you for calling to confirm. I'll have my production team send over the delivery schedule by Monday. Perfect, she said. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. And congratulations again. This is a huge milestone. Thank you, I said. You too. I ended the call and picked up my phone, setting it back in my pocket. Then I looked around the table at 16 faces frozen in various states of shock. So, I said, sitting back down and picking up my fork. Where were we? Something about me not being a real fashion designer. Mom's mouth was opening and closing like a fish. Dad had gone completely pale. Diane looked like I'd slapped her. $12 million? Aunt Ruth finally managed. Did that woman just say $12 million? For the spring collection, yes, I confirmed. Bloomingdale's is carrying my full ready-to-wear line across 127 stores. They placed the order 6 weeks ago, but corporate needed to finalize the details before confirming. Bloomingdale's, Mom whispered. The Bloomingdale's? The department store. That's the one, I said. They've been interested in my work since I showed at New York Fashion Week last February. Their buyers approached me about a partnership in March. We've been negotiating terms and working out the production schedule since then. New York Fashion Week, Diane repeated numbly. You showed at Fashion Week? Last February and again in September, I said. The February show was my breakthrough. That's when Bloomingdale's and several other retailers first saw my work. The September show confirmed that the spring collection had strong commercial potential, which led to this order. Kevin, who worked in finance and supposedly understood big numbers, spoke up. A $12 million order. That's a major retail deal. That's not some boutique carrying a few pieces. That's a national distribution agreement. 127 stores, I confirmed. Coast to coast. They're positioning my line as emerging luxury, price point between contemporary and high-end designer. Dresses retail between $400 and $1,200, evening wear up to $2,800. You're selling dresses for $1,200? Diane asked faintly. The hand-beaded silk evening gowns retail for $2,800, I corrected. The everyday pieces are more accessible. $400 to $600 for day dresses, $800 to $1,200 for cocktail attire. It's positioned as luxury that's attainable for professional women who want investment pieces. Investment pieces, Mom repeated, still trying to process. Quality construction, timeless design, sustainable materials, I said. Women buy one of my dresses knowing they'll wear it for years. The fabric is Italian silk and wool blends. The construction is couture level. The design is elegant without being trendy. That's the brand positioning. Nathan was grinning. This is incredible. Claire, this is absolutely incredible. It's been a good year, I admitted. A good year, he repeated. You just got a $12 million order from Bloomingdale's. That's not a good year, that's a career-defining achievement. The Bloomingdale's order is significant, I agreed. But it's part of a larger growth trajectory. I also have distribution deals with Nordstrom, Saks Fifth Avenue and several high-end boutiques. The Bloomingdale's order is the largest single purchase order, but my total wholesale orders for spring are around $28 million across all retail partners. $28 million, Dad said, his voice barely above a whisper. Wholesale, I clarified. That's what the retailers pay me. They mark it up for retail. So the retail value is actually about $56 million, but my company's revenue from spring wholesale orders is $28 million. The silence was profound. Angela finally found her voice. Claire, how is this possible? We thought you were making dresses in your apartment. I do make dresses in my apartment, I said. Well, I design them there. The actual production happens in a manufacturing facility in Sunset Park that I contract with. They specialize in small-batch, high-quality production for emerging designers. I design each piece, create the patterns, source the materials, oversee the sample production and approve every final garment. But I'm not literally hand-sewing hundreds of dresses. You have a manufacturing facility, Diane said. I contract with one, I corrected. I don't own it. But yes, they produce my designs under my quality specifications. I employ a team of 6 people full-time, a production manager, a pattern maker, 2 sample sewers, a sales director and a business manager. Plus I work with freelance PR, accounting and legal professionals. You employ 6 people, Mom said. Full-time with benefits, I confirmed. Plus the manufacturing facility employs about 25 people who work on my orders along with other designers' lines. So my business directly supports about 30 jobs total. This is insane, Diane said, though she didn't sound dismissive anymore. She sounded stunned. How long has this been happening? When did you go from sewing in your apartment to having a multi-million-dollar fashion line? It's been gradual, I said. When I left my marketing job 7 years ago, I was sewing by hand in my apartment. Made pieces for myself and friends. Started an Instagram showing my designs. Got about 10,000 followers in the first year. People started asking to buy pieces. I'd make them to order. 1 dress at a time, all hand-sewn. I remember that, Mom said faintly. You were posting pictures of dresses online. We thought it was a nice hobby. It was a hobby, I said. For the first year. Then it became a side business. I was making about 20 dresses a month, charging $200 to $400 each, bringing in maybe $5,000 monthly. It covered my rent and gave me some extra income while I built my portfolio. Then what happened? Nathan asked, genuinely curious. A fashion blogger with 500,000 followers wore one of my dresses to an event and tagged me, I said. Her followers flooded my Instagram. Orders went from 20 a month to 200 a month. I couldn't hand sew that many pieces, so I found the manufacturing facility in Sunset Park. We did our first production run. 50 pieces in 5 styles. They sold out in 2 weeks. That's when you knew it was viable, Kevin said, his investment banker brain clearly working through the business model. That's when I knew it could scale, I agreed. I hired my first employee. A pattern maker who could help me translate my hand-sewn designs into production patterns. We did another run. 100 pieces. Sold out in 10 days. The revenue let me hire a production manager. We scaled to 500 pieces. Then 1,000. And now you're doing orders worth $28 million, Dad said, still processing. For spring, I said. Fall orders are still coming in, but they're tracking around $32 million based on current commitments. So total annual wholesale revenue this year will be approximately $60 million. $60 million, he repeated. That's revenue, not profit, I clarified. My costs are significant. Materials, manufacturing, labor, marketing, showroom expenses, fashion week shows. My profit margin is around 18%, so net profit on $60 million in revenue is approximately $10.8 million. You're making almost $11 million in profit, Diane said. The company is, I corrected. I pay myself a salary of $280,000 annually, which is more than enough to live on. The rest of the profit gets reinvested in the business. Expanding production capabilities, hiring more staff, increasing marketing, building inventory. I'm growing aggressively. Aunt Ruth was staring at me like I was a stranger. Claire, you're a millionaire. On paper, I said. The company is valued at approximately $45 million based on our revenue and growth trajectory. I own 100% of it, so yes, my net worth is substantial. But most of it is tied up in the business. It's not like I have $45 million sitting in a bank account. But you could sell, Kevin said. You could sell the company for $45 million and walk away. I could, I agreed. I've had acquisition offers from 2 major fashion conglomerates. One offered $38 million last year. The other offered $52 million 6 months ago. I turned them both down. You turned down $52 million? Diane asked incredulously. The company is worth more to me than they were offering, I said simply. And I'm not ready to sell. I'm building something lasting. I want to see how big it can get. Mom had tears in her eyes. Why didn't you tell us? All this time, why did you let us think you were just sewing dresses in your apartment? Because that's what you wanted to believe, I said gently. I tried to tell you. 3 years ago when I hired my first employees, I invited you to my workspace to see the operation. You said you were too busy. 2 years ago when I showed at Fashion Week for the first time, I invited the whole family. No one came. Last year when WWD did a feature on me as an emerging designer, I sent you the article. No one read it. WWD? Dad asked. Women's Wear Daily, Nathan said. It's the fashion industry's most important trade publication. If they feature you, you've made it. I didn't know that, Dad said quietly. You didn't ask, I said. Every time I tried to share what I was doing, you dismissed it. Nice hobby, Claire. That's creative, Claire. When are you getting a real job, Claire? Eventually I stopped trying to explain. It was easier to let you believe what you wanted to believe. But we would have been supportive if we'd known, Mom protested. If we'd understood you were building an actual business. Would you have been? I interrupted. Or would you have told me I was being unrealistic? That fashion is too competitive? That I should get a stable corporate job instead of chasing a dream? Be honest. She opened her mouth, then closed it. We both knew the answer. The point is, I continued, I didn't build this business for your approval. I built it because I love designing clothes and I saw an opportunity in the market. What you thought about it didn't change what I was creating. Diane had pulled out her phone and was frantically Googling. Oh my God. Claire Laurent Designs. There are articles about you. Vogue mentioned you. Harper's Bazaar did a feature. You've been covered by every major fashion publication. Press is part of building a brand, I said. My PR team works hard to get placement in the right outlets. It drives awareness and helps retailers feel confident in carrying the line. Your PR team, she repeated faintly. I employ a PR firm, I said. They handle media relations, celebrity placements, influencer partnerships. It's expensive but effective. When a celebrity wears one of my dresses to an event and it gets photographed, that's worth more than any advertisement I could buy. Have celebrities worn your dresses? Nathan asked eagerly. Several, I said. I can't discuss specifics due to NDAs with their stylists, but yes. When you see photos of actresses at premieres or award shows, Some of them are wearing my designs. Their stylists reach out, we lend pieces, they wear them to events. It generates publicity and drives sales. Kevin was reading something on his phone. There's an article here from last month. Forbes 30 Under 30 in Art and Style. You're featured. That came out in September, I said. Nice recognition, though the age cutoff meant this was my last year of eligibility. I turned 36 next month. Forbes 30 Under 30, Dad said numbly. My daughter is in Forbes 30 Under 30 and I didn't even know it. I sent you the link, I said. You replied, that's nice, honey. He winced. Cousin Matthew, who'd been silent, spoke up. Can I ask a business question? The $12 million Bloomingdale's order. What's your timeline for fulfilling that? Deliveries start in January, I said. They want the spring collection in stores by early February to catch the post-holiday shopping season. We'll deliver in 3 waves, February 1st, March 1st, and April 1st. Gives them fresh inventory throughout the spring season. And you can produce that volume? He asked. We've been scaling production for 6 months in preparation, I said. The manufacturing facility added capacity specifically for my spring orders. We're ready. That's impressive operations management, he said. Coordinating production, quality control, and delivery for a $12 million order across 127 locations. That's complex logistics. That's why I hired a business manager, I said. I design the clothes. My team handles operations, logistics, finance, all the back end. I focus on creative direction and strategic vision. They execute. You've built a real company, he said with genuine admiration. Not just a fashion line but an actual scaled business with infrastructure and systems. That was always the goal, I said. I didn't want to be a boutique designer making 50 pieces a year. I wanted to build something that could reach women across the country. That required thinking like a business, not just like an artist. The sustainable luxury angle, Kevin said, still reading on his phone. That's smart positioning. Luxury consumers care about sustainability now. You're capturing a major trend. It's not just positioning, I said. It's genuine commitment. My fabrics come from certified sustainable sources. The manufacturing facility pays fair wages and maintains ethical labor practices. I build relationships with suppliers who share my values. It costs more, but it's the right way to build a brand that lasts. That's admirable, Angela said quietly. Really admirable, Claire. Thank you, I said. Mom wiped her eyes. I feel like I don't know you at all. My own daughter built a multi-million-dollar fashion company and I didn't even notice. You noticed what you expected to see, I said. You saw me sewing and assumed hobby. You saw me working long hours and assumed struggling artist. You never looked deeper because the narrative you'd created was comfortable. I'm so sorry, she said, her voice breaking. I'm so incredibly sorry. We should have believed in you. We should have supported you. You should have been curious, I corrected. You should have asked questions instead of making assumptions. But Mom, I understand. Fashion seems frivolous from the outside. Impractical. Risky. You wanted me to have security and stability. You were trying to protect me. But you didn't need protecting, Dad said. You were building something extraordinary while we worried about you having health insurance. I have excellent health insurance, I said. Corporate plan through the business. Covers me and all my employees. Of course you do, he said with a shaky laugh. Of course you have everything figured out. Nathan raised his glass. I think we should toast. To Claire, who proved us all wrong while being too classy to rub it in our faces. I'll drink to that, Kevin said, raising his own glass. Everyone around the table raised their glasses. To Claire, they chorused. Thank you, I said. But I wasn't trying to prove anyone wrong. I was just trying to build something meaningful. Mission accomplished, Diane said. She looked at me with new eyes, really seeing me for maybe the first time. I'm sorry I dismissed your work. I'm sorry I called it arts and crafts. What you've built is incredible. Thank you, I said. That means a lot. After dinner, while others cleared plates and prepared dessert, Dad pulled me aside in the living room. Can I see it? He asked. The work, I mean. The actual designs, the operation, everything. You want to visit my workspace? I asked. If you're willing to show me, he said. I'd like to understand what you've built. Really understand it, not just hear numbers. I'd like that, I said honestly. Mom joined us. I'd like to come too. That's okay. I want to see what I've been missing. Both of you are welcome, I said. I'm in the studio most days. Come by any time. Next week? Mom asked. Would next week work? Tuesday afternoon, I suggested. I have a design session with my pattern maker. You could see the creative process. We'll be there, Dad promised. Later, as I was getting ready to leave, Diane caught me at the door. That dress you're wearing, she said. The burgundy one. That's one of yours, isn't it? I designed it, I confirmed. Made the first sample myself about 8 months ago. It's not in the retail collection. This is a personal piece. It's beautiful, she said. Really beautiful. The drape, the color, the way it moves. I've been watching it all night and it's just exquisite. Thank you, I said. Could I buy one? She asked. Not from you directly, I mean, but when your spring collection launches at Bloomingdale's. Will pieces like this be available? Similar silhouette, yes, I said. The collection has several dresses with that draped neckline detail. Different colors, different fabrications, but the same elegant simplicity. I'll buy one, she said. Maybe two. I want to support your work. And also, she paused, looking embarrassed. I want to wear something you designed. To feel connected to what you've built. That would mean a lot, I said honestly. He hugged me. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. As I drove back to Brooklyn, my phone buzzed with texts. One from Nathan, you're basically a superhero. One from Angela, please teach me everything about building a business. One from Mom, I can't stop thinking about how wrong we were. We love you so much and we're so proud. I smiled and drove through the quiet streets toward my apartment. My workspace, my design studio, the place where I'd built something my family was only now beginning to understand. The next morning, I met with my team at our Sunset Park facility. Showed them the confirmed Bloomingdale's order, discussed the Neiman Marcus opportunity, reviewed production schedules for spring delivery. This is it, my production manager said, looking at the order details. This is the moment we've been working toward. National distribution. Major retail partnerships. Claire Lauron Designs as a recognized brand. We've earned it, I said. Every late night, every quality control check, every time we pushed for perfection instead of settling for good enough. This is the payoff. What's next? My business manager asked. After we nail the Bloomingdale's deliveries, after we close Neiman Marcus, what's the next goal? International expansion, I said. I've had inquiries from retailers in London, Paris, Tokyo. We're ready to go global. From Brooklyn to the world, my sales director said with a grin. From a sewing machine in my apartment to 127 Bloomingdale's stores, I corrected. The world is just the next logical step. On Tuesday, my parents came to visit the workspace. I showed them the design studio where I sketched and draped fabric on dress forms. The sample room where my pattern maker and sewers created the prototypes. The office where my business manager tracked orders and managed logistics. The showroom where buyers came to see the collection. This is a real operation, Dad said, looking around at the organized chaos of a fashion business in full production mode. This is a legitimate company with infrastructure and processes and professional systems. That's what I've been trying to tell you, I said gently. Mom watched my pattern maker work on a design, translating my hand-drawn sketch into a precise technical pattern. How did you learn all this? The business side, the production, the retail relationships. Trial and error mostly, I said. I read everything I could about the fashion industry. I talked to other designers who were further along. I hired people who knew what they didn't know and learned from them. I made mistakes and fixed them. I just kept building. Without our support, she said quietly. Without us believing in you. I didn't need you to believe in me, I said. I needed to believe in myself. Your support would have been nice, but it wasn't necessary. The work stood on its own merit. That's a hard way to build something, Dad said. It made me stronger, I said. Made the business stronger. I couldn't rely on family encouragement or approval. I had to prove it in the market. Every sale, every reorder, every positive review from a customer. That was validation that mattered more than any family blessing. My phone rang. Neiman Marcus buyer. I excused myself to take the call. When I returned, my parents were looking at samples from the spring collection hanging on a rack. Beautiful pieces in silk and wool, each one perfect, each one representing hours of design work and careful construction. These are going to be in Bloomingdale's, Mom said, running her hand along a navy silk dress. Our daughter's designs in stores across the country. Across the world soon, I said. If the international expansion goes as planned. Dad turned to me. I'm sorry we didn't see this. I'm sorry we called it a hobby when you were building an empire. It's not an empire yet, I said. But we're getting there. We'd like to be part of it, he said. Not financially, you clearly don't need our money. But we'd like to be involved. To understand your work, support your vision, celebrate your wins. If you'll let us. I'd like that, I said honestly. I've always wanted you to see what I was building. I just needed you to look. We're looking now, Mom promised. And we won't look away again. They visited twice more that month. Came to my studio, met my team, learned about the business. They started to understand that their daughter wasn't a hobbyist with a sewing machine. She was a CEO with a growing fashion brand, a designer with a vision, a businesswoman building something that would last. On Christmas, Diane gave me a gift, a framed photo of the Bloomingdale's storefront with a card that read, "To the little sister who proved big sisters don't know everything. Proud of you." On New Year's, the first spring deliveries shipped to Bloomingdale's. My team and I watched the trucks leave the facility, carrying 847 pieces across 127 stores. In February, the collection launched. Within 3 days, 40% of the inventory had sold. Bloomingdale's reordered immediately. In March, I closed the Neiman Marcus deal. Another $8 million in orders. In April, I opened discussions with Harrods in London and Galeries Lafayette in Paris. My family watched it all unfold. Came to events, asked questions, celebrated milestones. Finally saw me for who I'd been all along. The daughter who'd been sewing in her apartment was always building something more. They just hadn't been looking closely enough to see it. But now they saw. And that made all the difference.